I'm delighted to be joined here by Philly Larkin here from the Houston Gaels, chairman of the Houston Gaels club over in Texas. Philly, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Kevin. Good to be here.
Good to be here. Philly, I just start off real quickly. We'll jump straight into it, and you can tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, how long you've been over in Texas and how long you've been involved in Houston Gaels.
Certainly. Moved here 3.5 years ago. So initially we didn't have a Gaelic football team or any Gaelic club over here. So when I moved here, first thing I did was start searching around to see if I could find a Gaelic football or a hurling team to get involved with. But unfortunately there wasn't one. So what I ended up doing is I actually ended up going playing with Austin. Austin were the only team in Texas at the time. And then just over 2 years ago, a friend of mine who I had made friends with here got in touch with me and said that he was interested in starting a club. Johnny Zymek and myself, himself, and Mike Murphy got together over a couple of beverages.
I think
that was it.
Yeah, and that seems to be the trend with people who are moving abroad. There's a lot of people moving abroad in the last 5 or 6 years, and a major trend is if you go to England, you're bound to bump into a hurling or a football club somewhere local, somewhere close enough to you. But for example, we were speaking to a guy from Qatar GA, the chairman of the PRO of the Qatar GA club, and that club had only been up and running 10 years, and there's a lot of people in the same boat. So, I mean, what were the challenges, I suppose, of setting up a new hurling club or a football club?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting you should mention Qatar GA, because I was in Qatar when we started Qatar GA as well back in.
So you have a history of this.
2003 and 2004, yeah. So there are major challenges, in fact, and the biggest challenge for us here in Houston was just the sheer size of the place. Houston is a city of 6 million people. It's got I think something like 50 or 60 of the top Fortune 500 companies in the city. It's an enormous logistical difficulty for us. So the first thing we needed to do was see if we could try to find. I guess we did have to try and find some Irish first, so that we could have people who understood the games and understood the history to get this thing going and get this thing off the ground. And then it was about recruitment. So we just, as we say in the industry I work in, we shoe leathered it. We just got out there, we got into bars, we got into local businesses, we got into local cafes, restaurants, and we stuck posters up. We got on Facebook, we got on Twitter, we got on Google, we got on everything. And we just tried to get the name out there. And slowly but surely, it started to build. We still have the pictures from the very first training session when there was, I think, 11 of us. We had no field. We trained behind the goals in a rugby field that was unplayable. Yeah. And from there, sort of the roots started. So there's several challenges. The biggest one in Houston is the logistical side of things and trying to get people. We have people who have to travel 45 minutes just to get into the city to train with us. So that's the big thing: getting the numbers and getting the logistics right, and trying to find something. A location that people are able to get to and can come and play comfortably and play the sports, and that's really where the difficulty lies.
Yeah, and it's a huge challenge when you have 6 million people and you have such a large urban area. It's a lot of travelling around to do when there's only one team between that, and of course you're competing with a lot of sports there. So I mean, getting people who are non-Irish into the GA club must be a fierce challenge. I mean, have you had much success with that?
We have, and I'm very proud to say that that's a big aim of us. I'm 34 years old now, and a lot of the Irish guys that live and work in Houston are the wrong side of 30, and some are the wrong side of 40. So the bottom line is we're not the future of this club. The future is going to be the youth teams that we hope to be able to set up in the next couple of years, and the younger guys that are coming through. If you look around North America now, and I mean, your point about the clubs growing in the UK and certainly in America is very valid. With the recession, the global recession, and in particular with it biting specifically hard back home, you've got a lot of Irish people who have travelled now and gotten work elsewhere. Australia is another place there's a huge resurgence in the GA. Canada is another place. There's a massive resurgence in the GA up there. So yeah, you've got a lot of challenges there, and you've got a lot of people who are willing to put some time and effort into starting clubs. So. Yeah, it's great. It's great for me, but like I said, I'll be eventually handing over the reins to somebody, and it's the young guys, the American guys, that are going to run with this club eventually. And thankfully, I would say at the moment we're running at about, I'd say it's not far off 50%, 50-50 between, I would say, Irish and non-Irish. So we have a couple of English and Scottish, a few Australians as well. Some of our Mexican friends that live in the city as well. Good soccer players make good Gaelic footballers too. So as well as Gaelic football, the next challenge is trying to teach them how to play with the small ball and the stick as well. We started a bit of hurling training recently now as well, and you'd be amazed. The Americans love it. They absolutely love it. So yeah, they're the future. It's the young American guys that we need to get up through this club, and that's the aim. That's the idea.
Yeah, I mean, and certainly with the hurling, it's very easy to set up a Gaelic football club logistically and financially, because all you need is the football and the soccer goals, and you can fire away. But hurling brings in a completely different set of circumstances, doesn't it? With the purchasing of the ash hurls, and I understand a lot of people go with the cool techs these days, especially in drier climates like you get in Austin or Texas.
Yeah,
of course. Then there's just a lot more expenses involved, isn't there?
There is. Hurleys are one thing, and I'm from a hurling club back in Ireland, in Tipperary, and hurleys, whilst expensive, you can kind of manage it, because you've got people who might be going home and can bring back a lash of them and stick them in a luggage bag, and there's different deals with different clubs at home. The big challenge, to be honest, in terms of expense, is helmets. It's compulsory now to wear a helmet, even if you're just pucking a ball around in training. There's insurance liability issues and health and safety issues that you need to be fully aware of when you're swinging a piece of wood around people's heads. So helmets are crucial. They need to be worn, obviously, 100%, but they're also a huge expense, and they are an inhibiting factor with starting a Gaelic football team. That, and the fact that hurling is a lot more difficult to teach. It's even to Irish people, to certain Irish people.
You don't have many Kerry men playing hurling over there, I suppose.
Or Sligo men or Leitrim men or those, but we have them all trying, and that's what makes it sometimes even a little bit more dangerous. They won't appreciate me saying that, though.
And I understand then recently you had a bit of trouble with the name of your club, and you had to change the name recently to something else. Can you explain what happened there, what the story was there?
Certainly. We started life as the Houston Fenians, and I suppose there are Fenians Gaelic football teams all over the world. There's one in Buffalo, there's one in Ireland, there's a hurling club in Kilkenny called the Fenians. They're from Johnstown.
Yeah, Johnstown, yeah.
And there's, in my opinion, it really comes down to somebody's interpretation of the word. But regardless of that, when we realised that there was an historical issue with that particular word and how it has been used, and the connotations it had to the Republican movement back in the 1800s, we decided the best thing to do was to remove all controversy and to get rid of it and start afresh, which has brought a fresh challenge to us from a financial point of view, from an administrative point of view. We've had to change our website, we've had to change our Facebook, our Twitter, our email addresses. Everything has had to change. All of our paraphernalia internally in the club. Even just in normal conversation, it's amazing how easily you slip back into the old name. But we had our award ceremony on Friday night, and Christmas party on Friday night just passed, and I gave a little chat about it, and I gave about a 5-minute talk just asking people to embrace the new name and to completely remove the old one from their minds. And the idea is we're a community club. We're trying to grow the sport here. We don't need any controversy, and we don't need any local businesses who may have heard of certain negative connotations with the word Fenians to be thinking, oh, these guys maybe don't know what they're doing, or they are associated with that type of thing from back in the past. Yeah. So we thought it best to dispense of it. We're the Houston Gaels now. We had a vote, actually. We sent it out to the club, and we had about 50 names that people had come back with, and some of them were interesting to say the least. Things like Houston Hurricanes and Houston Bayou Men. Houston's known as the Bayou City, and I thought it'd be best if we went with something a little bit generic, even if it is used by many GA clubs around the world. So Wales got voted in, and that's what we're running with. So I'm very happy to be moving forward with that now.
Yeah. So you didn't go in the end with the All American franchising of the Houston Hurricanes or anything like that.
No, we almost did. Almost did. And you know what? If that's what was voted in, fine. I wouldn't have had any. And you see teams, Austin, for example, are called the Celtic Cowboys, and their ladies' team is called the Celtic Cowgirls. So it really depends on your own feeling and perspective on it. I like the fact that we have. It might be generic, but we have an Irish name, and it can be translated back into Irish as well. So we're either Houston Gaels or Houston Clan Gaels. So.
Yeah. Okay, so you're very much then, by the sounds of it, a club in not in your club that's growing. You're growing pretty fast, and you're over there 3 years now, 4 years over in Austin at this stage. So
Houston.
obviously you're looking Houston, sorry. So obviously you're looking to build a club here, build a home almost. I mean, what do you see the plans are for Houston Gaels? Is it something you see as being as big as it is here in Ireland, or?
Absolutely. We've got four clubs in Texas now. Thankfully, I'm very pleased and proud to say, and we have probably one of the best new, thriving, functioning leagues in America right now, which is we've called the Texas Development League. All four teams play each other in four separate tournaments, and each club has at least two men's teams, senior team, A and a B team. The A team play off in a round robin, and those results are tabulated. So after three rounds of this in whatever three cities, and it rotates every year, then the top two play in the final in the last tournament, the finals tournament, and the bottom two play in the third, fourth place playoff. There's two ladies teams now. There's a team in Austin and a team in Dallas. There's the startings of a hurling club here and the startings of a hurling club in Austin as well. So this thing is enormous. We run four fabulous tournaments every year in each of the main cities: Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston. And every year we've only had this going 2 years, and every year somebody has stepped up and raised the bar. So we had a marching band, and we had the finals last year. Dallas had them in year one. And we had a marching band where we marched the teams out All Ireland style, and they did a lap of the field, and we had some kids that walked out on the field with a couple of flags, one Irish, one American. We had the national anthems. We had food and different types of food trucks hanging around all around the perimeter of the field as well. So in terms of growth, the league is very healthy, and I only see that going from strength to strength. Ourselves here in Houston, I desperately want to get more sports. I want to get the hurling going, and I want to get the ladies football going. And then further down the road, I would really love if we could have a youth set up and have some grading at underage levels, so we can start them at any age. We have plans for 4 separate youth club camps this year, and we will deliver on those. We've delivered on our goals so far. Year one was to consolidate, get two teams or a thriving men's team together. We did that. Year two, our aims were to get to the national championships, which were held in Cleveland last year. We did that. We became the first men's club to win their debut at the national championships out of Texas, and we did it twice. We won our second game as well, and got to the semi-finals. So it was really fantastic effort from us, and I see the only way is up really in terms of the development and the plans that we have.
Yeah, and certainly one thing that strikes me is when I'm talking to people about their GA clubs overseas is they talk about the fantastic tournaments that go on, like the Middle Eastern leagues and the Australian leagues and the different regional leagues across North America. But what I always wonder about that is the leagues themselves are doing so well, but at the same time they receive no coverage in Ireland in the same way as, we'll say, the Kilkenny Hurling Championship. The Kilkenny Senior Hurling Championship will gain a lot of coverage, will get TV coverage, people will be talking about it and talk about the people who win it. You know, do you ever see a stage in North American history where people are talking about, God, who won the Texas Championship there last week, or you know, they're gearing up for the Texas Championship final?
Absolutely, and I suppose I have to be a little bit careful in terms of what I say about this, but we were very close in Texas to getting the Railway Cup to be played in Dallas in I guess it's in February every year now. It's when they hold it. Unfortunately, I think it came down to a Croke Park decision in the end, and they decided not to move it. But we want the maximum amount of exposure we can get for not only for our local league here, our local club, and then branching out to Texas, and then branching out to North America. I'm surprised that there hasn't been more coverage of the North American Championships, because the North American Championships have been going on for decades at this point. Now, New York has their own thing, but you've Boston, Chicago, San Francisco, Philadelphia, and then us, we're the new kids on the block coming in up from the south as well. This tournament is absolutely enormous now. It's so big that they almost had to force people to do playoffs, separate playoffs, to try and get into the championship last year, because there were so many teams that are now formed and now want to be involved. We had an ex BBC correspondent come to Texas and film our championships last year off his own bat. He's a freelance journalist now, Jerome Quinn, and that was more coverage for us. So that went viral. Obviously, we put that on YouTube, and it was on Facebook and Twitter and everything else. So I'm surprised it hasn't happened already, and I think that with the amount of people that are involved now and the amount of effort that's going into the league down here, it's only a matter of time before we start getting more coverage back home, and especially when people know people in these regions and they know who's playing. I mean, all my friends are asking me, friends and family, how I get on with the Gaelic and the hurling every time we have a weekend. So, yep, that's definitely an aim, and I see it happening over the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, the American Championship is probably the largest championship outside of the UK, or even as big as the UK Championship. It's probably got more teams for sure, but it's spread out over a large area. Do you ever see maybe forgetting about Ireland and forgetting about national Irish coverage? Do you ever feel like that maybe the Irish Diaspora and maybe the Americans might take to Gaelic games in North America on its own merit, and forget about what's going on in Ireland, and it becomes almost like an American thing? So you have almost like the American leagues, right? Just as you have the Spanish leagues for soccer and you have the English leagues for soccer. It becomes its own popular thing.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Unfortunately, you're always going to have the Irish tie, because everything, even as a new club over here, relates back into Croke Park. And if you want to do stuff, you do need to have they need to have approval from Croke Park. For example, if we're selling our jerseys online, which we are through the Croke Park website or the GA website, that's all approved by them, and they take the proceeds. We get a 10% rebate on the back of that. So yeah, I mean, it's its own entity in a way, and that's good. But it'll always have that tie, I think.
Yeah,
I think it'll always have the tie, and that's important too, because if it becomes its own thing, then who knows what happens down the line? Rule changes and different, the sport maybe turns into something it's not meant to be, or becomes overly competitive. Yeah. The idea of this, and we all get competitive, myself especially, but the real idea is to get people together, and to make this a community thing, and not just an Irish thing either, to get the whole community involved and get people playing sports, getting fit, getting healthy, and then having the crack after, whether it's in the pub or we've lots of non-pub social activities that we want to implement as well, like bowling and different things like that. So that's the idea, and I think that's the aim, and hopefully we'll be able to push forward with that.
Yeah. Okay, so just finally then, before we wrap up, just querying on yourself, where do you see your position in the development of Houston Gaels and GA in general in North America? Is this something you see as being a long-term ambition of yours, or are you thinking of a return to Ireland in the next 2 or 3 years, etc.?
Yeah, at the moment I have no plans to go back, so I'm certainly thinking long term. I had various different things going on. I was studying and whatnot. So Johnny Siamek, the guy I mentioned earlier, ran the club for the first 2 years of our existence, but we had an agreement that I was going to take over as chairman. I'd like at least 2 years of a run as the chairman, and then obviously we want to spread it around as well and allow other people into the different roles on the committee and what have you. But as long as I'm in Houston, I'll be involved in this club. And I really want to see the day when we become not only a force in Texas, because Austin is the most established club, unfortunately, are running away with the Texas League the first 2 years, but we're pegging them back pretty close. Dallas are a good team. We're a close third, and San Antonio are very, very close to us as well. But my involvement will stay as long as I'm in Houston. As long as I'm here, I'll be a part of this club. And I want to see it grow to be a force in Texas, a force in the Southwest Division, and then a force in the national championships as well. And we did extremely well this year, getting to the semi-finals of the Nationals, as I mentioned earlier. For a young club, we had it's 13 aside over here. We had 15 going, so we only had 2 subs and a lot of guys who were new to the sport. So to win 2 games and to get to a semi-final is a phenomenal achievement, to be honest. And I only see it getting better and better, and I'll be involved all the way as long as I'm here. Unfortunately, I'm on a visa though, so until that changes, I have no control over it.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to find a nice girl over there somehow.
Well,
obviously now you had an idea in mind. You wanted to move to Texas. You wanted to get your job there. You were driven, and there was probably nothing going to hold you back from the sounds of things anyway. And come hell or high water, you were going to set up a GA club. But what about the less outgoing or enthusiastic person who's facing a move abroad? What kind of words of encouragement would you have for the young GA buck who maybe isn't as outgoing as yourself, and is a bit nervous about losing touch with what makes their identity when they move abroad?
Sure. I suppose, yeah, you probably hit the nail right on the head in terms of me. I really didn't have any major. I moved out of Ireland when I was 22, and I moved to the Middle East first. I was in Saudi Arabia for almost 3 years, and then I moved to Qatar. I was actually involved in 2 clubs in Saudi too, if you can believe that. Saudi Arabia has Gaelic football. Then I moved to Qatar, and we started a club there. So it was easy for me. I'm sort of that way inclined anyway. For anybody who's facing maybe a difficult time at home, or a young GA star at home, my advice is just to think about maybe the longer term picture, and to set yourself a goal and say, okay, well, if I have to do this, I'll do it for a year and see how I feel. And just have that year in mind. Get over there and get stuck into it, and just get out there and immerse yourself in whoever's around. And if you find that GA club, get involved, and you'd be surprised how quickly you build up a group of people that will make you feel at home and make you feel welcome. And it's difficult, but the rewards are there. And just to see somebody like a guy on our team, a young Marine who'd never even heard of the sport before he came up, and he came as a part of, we have a good few Marines playing for us now. His name is Jose Grimaldo, and Jose came to the national championships with us. Now Jose is a fantastic soccer player, but his Gaelic football skills are still developing, and Jose became probably the hardest man on our team to mark for the opposition. They couldn't get past him. So he may not have had the skills, but they couldn't play against him because he was just totally focused and determined. And those are the rewards that you can feel from being a part of a team like this. When you look at a guy who's never even heard of the sport before, and he can do that, and it just makes you feel good as well. So I would say to anybody considering it, go for it if you have the opportunity.
Yeah. Certainly I would like to come up against an ex-Army Marine in a Gaelic football match. I think he'd have my number.
As well, but he's feisty, you know.
Yeah. I just seen there somebody, an American commented on a post we put up on the Facebook page recently, and she was just commenting on a post about Davy Fitzgerald, and she says she loves hurling, and the first time she saw it, she was hooked. But that the Irish Gaelic players were the true, what does she call them? Pirate athletes of the world, or something along those lines.
Wow. So, interesting.
I mean, have you come across those kind of any kind of wild reactions to you playing Gaelic football or hurling in the States? Has anyone kind of looked at it and kind of gone, okay, this is interesting?
Yeah, and it's amazing. I mean, I spend a lot of my time, even when I'm talking business with people, talking about GA, because they ask me what I do, and I tell them, this is because this consumes, I'd say, probably 70% to 75% of my personal time, this club, and playing and training and everything else. So when you're explaining it to people, and I start off and I tell them I play Irish football, and then I say it's called Gaelic football, and the first answer is the same every time. They say, "Oh, rugby." And I said, no, it's not rugby. It's like a mix between rugby and soccer and a little bit of basketball thrown in as well. And they go, oh, wow, that's really interesting. So then the first thing we do is we go to our YouTube and we bring up the very first video when you type in Gaelic football, the beautiful game. And that really explains it very well. And I'll sit there with my iPhone in a bar or at an industry conference somewhere showing some 50 or 60-year-old American Texan what Gaelic football is, and they're amazed. The reaction is amazed. They can't believe it, and we haven't even exposed them to hurling yet. And you know how people react to hurling. So yeah, it's great to see it, and the Americans absolutely love this sport. They really embrace it because it's a little bit more physical than soccer, and they love that. You look at the American sports here, especially American football, and it's an extremely physical game, and it's why they've embraced rugby as well. But yeah,
it's less constricting than rugby, I suppose. A bit more free flowing. Than rugby.
Exactly. They like two things here. They like a good physical fight in terms of the sporting contest, and they like a lot of scores. And that's what you get in Gaelic football. That's Gaelic football in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So they love it. They absolutely love it, and they embrace it. And it's absolutely, honestly, it's absolutely fabulous to see it. It's what makes my job and everyone else that's involved in this club worthwhile. I couldn't really, obviously, like I said, I'm competitive, but winning games is fantastic and it's superb. But watching a guy like Jose, an Irish guy, into submission on a field that's what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks very much, Philly. It was great to talk to you about Houston Gaels and how you're getting on over there. Sounds like you're doing fantastic. You know, I wouldn't mind coming over myself, get a bit of sunny weather and play a bit of GA and you'd be sorted.
Absolutely. On that point, I'll just tell you that what we try and do every year is get people over. So last year we had Jerome Quinn. We're looking to get him involved again. And as this is growing, so has our sponsorship. So we're reaching out to different sponsors and we're trying to get more money. And the more money we get, the more people we can get involved and get transferred or to get over here to give us coverage of the games. Yeah. And that's what it's about. Like what you said about getting the name and getting the coverage out there. That's what it's about, trying to get our name out there. And speaking of which, let's segue. I just want to mention the website, the Facebook, and the Twitter, if that's all right, Kevin.
Yeah. Fire away there.
It's HoustonGaels.com for the website. You can find us at Houston Gaels on Facebook, and the Twitter is at Houston Gaels.